In the frozen wastelands of Manchuria, behind barbed wire and secrecy, one of history's darkest scientific experiments unfolded. Thousands died, not in combat, but in laboratories. Their bodies became test subjects for biological weapons. This is the story of Unit 731, where science became a weapon and humanity was stripped away in the name of war. In 1936, the Empire of Japan established a covert research facility in Harbin, Manchuria. Officially, it was called the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department. But its real name, Unit 731, would become synonymous with unimaginable horror. Led by Lieutenant General Shiro Ishii, a brilliant but ruthless microbiologist, Unit 731 had one mission: develop biological weapons that could turn the tide of war. Ishii believed that diseases, plague, anthrax, cholera, could be weaponized to devastate enemy populations without firing a single bullet. But to perfect these weapons, Ishii needed test subjects. Not rats, not monkeys, humans. The facility sprawled over 6 square kilometers, disguised as a lumber mill. Inside were laboratories, operating rooms, crematoria, and holding cells. Prisoners, referred to coldly as logs or maruta, were brought in by the hundreds. Most were Chinese civilians, Soviet prisoners, Mongolians, and Koreans. Some were Allied POWs. Slow, ominous build. Let the gravity sink in. Imagine being locked in a cell, stripped of your identity, reduced to a number. You don't know why you're here. You don't know what's coming. The experiments at Unit 731 were methodical, systematic, inhuman. Prisoners were injected with live plague bacteria. Researchers documented symptoms: fever, vomiting, organ failure, until death. Others were exposed to anthrax, typhoid, and cholera. Some were infected through contaminated food and water, others through aerosol sprays. But it didn't stop there. Frostbite experiments forced prisoners into sub-zero temperatures, their limbs frozen solid, then thawed repeatedly to study tissue damage. Vivisections, live dissections without anesthesia, were performed to observe the effects of disease on internal organs. Victims were conscious, screaming. Ishii and his team meticulously recorded everything: temperature changes, blood samples, time of death. To them, these weren't people. They were data points. Intense, unflinching. Pause for emotional weight. Unit 731 didn't just experiment, it weaponized death. Between 1940 and 1942, Japanese planes dropped plague-infested fleas over Chinese cities: Ningbo, Changde, Chuzhou. Entire villages were wiped out. Estimates suggest up to 400,000 civilians died from these attacks. The Japanese military also contaminated water supplies with cholera and typhoid. Wells, rivers, entire reservoirs became vectors of disease. Soldiers knew what they were doing. Documents reveal orders to spread epidemic diseases among enemy forces. This wasn't collateral damage, it was deliberate, calculated. A strategy to cripple enemy morale and infrastructure. And the world had no idea. Fast-paced, urgent, build tension. August 1945. Japan surrenders. The war is over. But Shiro Ishii and his team weren't arrested. They weren't prosecuted. Instead, they destroyed evidence. Buildings were blown up, documents burned. Prisoners still alive were executed to eliminate witnesses. Why? Because the United States made a deal. American occupation forces, led by General Douglas MacArthur, wanted the data, all the research, all the findings. In exchange, they granted immunity to Ishii and his senior staff. The Soviet Union also captured some Unit 731 members and held war crime trials in 1949. But most perpetrators walked free. Ishii lived quietly in Tokyo until his death in 1959. Some former Unit 731 scientists went on to have successful careers in medicine and pharmaceuticals. Justice was sacrificed for scientific knowledge. Today, Unit 731 remains one of history's most horrifying examples of science without ethics. Estimates suggest between 3,000 and 10,000 people died in the facility itself. Hundreds of thousands more perished from biological warfare campaigns. Japan has been criticized for downplaying these atrocities in its history curriculum. The Unit 731 Museum in Harbin stands as a reminder, but many Japanese citizens remain unaware of what happened. This isn't just history, it's a warning. When humanity is stripped away, when people become numbers, evil flourishes. Remember the victims. Remember the logs who never got to tell their stories. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. We owe it to the fallen to ensure this never happens again.